Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, trying out a new camera angle. Let me know what you think about it. Leave a comment. The internet's most visibly sweaty music nerd, and it's time for a review. The band? Xibalba. Easily the most badass band name I've ever said on this channel. Xibalba. Thank you. This band's name comes from Mayan folklore and translates roughly into place of fear, which was supposed to be inhabited by about 12 gods who lorded over various causes of human suffering, death, sickness, starvation, and more. And to make things even more morbid, this band's new LP, their first album for the Southern Lord label, has the title Hasta La Muerte, which is to the death in Spanish. These guys are aggressive as hell, they're brutal as hell, and they just deliver this building, crumbling heaviness on track after track. Their earlier material did have a really aggressive energy, but I think they really went above and beyond on this new LP. Really kind of bringing that hardcore punk ferocity with a sludge metal heaviness with the brand of low end that is very deserving of a spot in the Southern Lord discography. Now, Southern Lord has been carrying a lot of sludgy, hardcore punk hybrids. I have reviewed a handful of them. A few of my most recent favorites have been Black Breath, as well as the band Nails, and Taylor Young from Nails actually does production on this LP, and Greg Anderson of Sunn comes in and contributes drony, heavy, loud guitars on a couple tracks too. And the special attention that these guys have got on this LP has really paid off, because this album is so loud you cannot turn it down. There are only two speeds at which you can go deaf to this LP: fast and sort of fast. So yes, these guys are incredibly brutal, and this extra attention that I just mentioned has brought a bit of detail, character, and finesse to the very bloodthirsty sound. You do get this very heavy, low-end sludge and doom riffage mixed with that punk speed, but these guys also have the tendency to embark on these massive metalcore and beatdown hardcore style breakdowns as well, which I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. I'm from Connecticut, where we had a pretty thriving hardcore and metalcore scene about 10 years ago. Bands like Hatebreed were pretty much spearheading that sound for the area, and if you couldn't see Hatebreed live, there were definitely a number of local acts who were kind of emulating their sound. So when I was a teenager, I was kind of around people that listened to that. I liked it too. However, when I got older, I kind of realized how shallow and redundant those genres can be. But if you are, interested in them, curious, I would definitely recommend Hatebreed or Terror. So again, Xibalba definitely has... Don't do that. So the band definitely has that style of aggression, and I find a lot of their tracks on this LP to be pretty dynamic. The aggression complements the experimentation and vice versa. You have the drones, you have the long, strung out, doomy riffs, and some noise as well on here that kind of keeps things very dark and very tortured, but those very fast and hard and aggressive riffs and breakdowns keep things from getting too long-winded, too boring, too drawn out. This LP opens up with a very dark drone, some nice, rich textures, and some very caveman-like prehistoric drums, cavernous reverb on them, and Greg Anderson isn't even on this track. It's nice to know that this band can kind of create those sounds pretty well on their own. Really kind of create a massive atmosphere, but right after this short atmospheric intro, they bust right into the quickness with kind of a variation on a D beat, and then from there on in, on the track, it is just mosh, 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 mosh. The bass is so heavy, they are not humble when it comes to the rumble, especially when they lay on those breakdown riffs and back them up with some harmonious guitar leads with kind of a rough quality to them that reminds me a lot of that
freaking Disma album that I liked so much last year. After that, the track Laid to Rest has a really nice mosh-worthy groove, and so does the song Burn. I mean, just really great riffs, adrenaline pumping. My only issue with the handful of tracks on the first half of this LP, even though they do come out swinging, there are some spots that do feel a little, you know, inconspicuous. Hey, I know this is really heavy and massive, but I could kind of hear this riff or just something like it just about anywhere. The second half on here I thought was way more experimental and sound rich. The track Flood is the first one that Greg Anderson appears on, and it escalates just ecstatically. It starts off really loud, and just he and Xibalba work on making the sound one shade louder as it progresses, and I'm just like, man, how much louder can they make it? Oh wow, it's louder now. How much louder can they make it? Oh man, it's louder now. How much louder can they make it? The title track has a really long, moody intro, and I think it's the catchiest song on the album. It has a really memorable hook, and the entirety of the lyrics are in Spanish. The song Mala Mujer is a track that was a little off-putting, has a female vocalist on it whose voice is manipulated with effects in a way that I didn't really care for, though it was a nice addition to the album, kind of broke things up, brought some variation, and the lyrics, which are in English, are very much about heartbreak and just suffering and pain in relation to love, or the lack of it, coming from someone you want it from. And the last two tracks on here are the longest on the album. Greg Anderson is on the last one, and they are drony and riffy odysseys. Really two of the more interesting spots on the album, I thought. I would love to see Xibalba experiment with this more even blend of this hardcore and drone and doom sound on their next LP for sure. Like I said, with this LP, there are some inconspicuous spots. If you're familiar with this genre, some things are just gonna feel maybe a little too familiar for you. And the vocals, which are really abrasive and really in your face, just engulfing the microphone with volume and just throaty. I wish they varied up a little bit more, but there's enough change to them and the background vocals throughout this LP to, you know, not make them feel annoyingly one-sided. And Xibalba definitely does a great job of bringing some amazing aggression together with another level of heaviness. I'm feeling a light to decent 8 on this thing. What did you guys think of this if you've given it a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what do you think I should review next? Remember, the good comment, the great rate, but only the strong subscribe. Anthony Fantano, Xibalba, Hasta La Muerte, forever.